Ooh, could you boil water for me?
Tea?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a cup of tea. Okay, I'm back. I'm back. I'll have to wait and see what goes on here. Okay, so people are here. Hello, people. Person. I'm back. I'm back. I went downstairs. So hopefully this will be okay. We'll have to wait and see. Hang on. Okay, so Jesus is Lord is here. Hey, Maish is here. Hey, Maish. Hang on, I'm muting the phone. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different because I don't have my laptop here now. Luke Miller is here. Yeah, I'm alive. No fucking way. I'm alive. H4R4 says, I think if Jesus was the begotten Son of God, that would be explicitly said in the Old Testament. Why gatekeep information that is so hard to grasp? Also, do all Jews believe in Amalek? Well, look, it depends on how you view the Old Testament. Yeah, you know what? Actually, I'll do it like this. Hang on a sec. Here, this might be better. It depends on... No, you know what? This will be better. Let's do it like this. Yeah, that's better. Yes. It really does depend on things that are explicitly written. Even things that are explicitly written in the Old Testament would have different commentaries and would have, let's say, a verse that contradicts that and a third verse that sort of makes the peace between them, and from halacha, and halacha is derived from those. It's like a whole thing. If you're talking about, also, are you talking about the Torah, or are you talking about the entirety of the Hebrew Bible? Because there's a difference. I thought a hypersonic missile got you. No, America First, I'm still here.
Your water is boiling.
Thank you. Here, you know what? Oh, wait, you know what? I'll make a cup of tea. I had a tea bag there. Can you bring it to me? Today is a great day. God is good, says No Fucking Way. Yes, indeed.
What?
His name is No Fucking Way. The Torah specifically. Well, look, if you're talking about the Torah specifically, there are many things there are many things written in the Torah, right? And you could say that they are explicit, but then you could say, oh, no, they're merely allegorical, right? And it's all metaphor, or, you know, it's like a story, a legend, a myth, and it's not actually practical. It's not history, it's just commandments. And even the commandments, they're not physical. You're supposed to write it on your heart and circumcise, you know, your heart and loosen your neck. So it really does depend on how you look at it. When it comes to the Torah, the only sons of God that are mentioned, right, are in the book of Genesis, and Israel as a firstborn. So not being alone as a son of God, but humanity at large, being made in the image of God, does have that place. But God is not a physical thing, so there is no physical progeny, right? Enrico says, what are your thoughts on... Oh, well, as for Amalek, we don't know who Amalek is de facto, right? The nation of Amalek, we don't know who they are. And that's a good thing, because I don't feel like genociding anybody. And I hope, right, we must remember that it's said that the memory of Amalek must be eradicated from under the heavens, right, in this world. But there is the root, right, where Israel and Amalek are one. There is the root where there is no good and evil, right or wrong, Israel and nations, right? It's like all one. That's the root that I'm shooting for. What are your thoughts on psychedelics, says Enrico? I am a fan of psychedelics, but as always, set and setting. Set and setting are the important thing. I believe that you need to respect the substance. I believe you need to honor it. You need to treat it well. And it's not that I'm against recreational use. It's like I think that the bulk of a person's psychedelic experiences should come from within and not from without, right? The main number of psychedelic experiences that you have, the big bulk of them should come from your own doing and not from a substance, be it synthetic or organic. But yeah, I'm definitely a fan of psychedelics. They're not for everybody, but they can teach you a lot. They can be very educational. That's true. Don't ye at me, bro, says Kevin. Hey, Kevin, I think you've been here before. Good to see you again. Highlander says, what do you think about black Israelites or black Hebrews? So I don't have much to say about black Hebrews or black Hebrew Israelites because I haven't had any dealings and doings with them. The only dealings and doings I've had with them are militant black Hebrew Israelites who said that I'm a fake Jew, and I don't buy into any of that fake Jew, real Jew crap. So what do I think of them? Absolutely nothing. I think that if they keep to the Torah and they keep to the commandments and they forsake the pagan ways and the pagan gods, then they can they are either actually born to the Hebrew tribes or they're righteous converts. But that's basically what I think. We are all of one consciousness discovering itself, Enrico says. Yes, I'm inclined to agree. It's right like the rainbow. We are fractured light. We are fractured into the spectrum of humanity, the spectrum of creation, but we all have that origin in the one pure light. And it's only when we go through this experience, like a raindrop going through like a light beam going through a raindrop, right? We go through this experience here, and seemingly we are all apart, and seemingly we are all fragmented, and seemingly we have all these divides in between. And nope, it all has one origin, one root. We'll discover that hopefully sooner than later. God is of a Germanic origin word, says James Bong. Yeah, Gott. That makes sense. Do you know anything about the Chabad Jewish movement? Well, what do you mean know anything? I'm a fan of Chabad, at least in some ways. There is a lot of talk about them here in the USA because of podcast people. I don't know, what do you mean? Is podcast people a specific podcast? I mean, what do I know about Chabad? I know a lot about Chabad. It depends on what is it you would want to know about them. I've studied with Chabadniks. I've worked and served in the army with Chabadniks. So, I studied some Chabad lore in yeshiva. And I know that the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, was a very great man. So it's like, what is it about them? Do I know anything? I do know some things, but what is it that you would want to know? We may be fragmented so we can discover who we are. Yes, it's the differences between us accentuate the similarities. It all really does depend on the lens through which you view the world. It's like right now we are fragmented, right? There are different tongues. There are different faiths, cultures, religions, countries, states. We have borders. In the very same way, it sort of speaks of a time when we were all one, right? We all came from a root in Eden. We all will be going back to Eden. And this fragmentation serves a purpose. I agree. It's just that I would love it if we would be able to look past our differences, that even if they are kept, we'll be able to look past them. Do you see what I mean? What I mean is that we will be able to bridge gaps and have and find common ground where we are able to be individuals, individual people, individual nations, individual countries and states and whatnot, individual faiths and religions, but still find the way and the path and the means where we can get together. So that would be very, very good. As for discovering who we are, yes, there is something to that, Enrico. I agree. I definitely agree. HG says, I'd want to know when you shampooed your hair the last time. When did I last shampoo? Sometime last week. I think it's been... I shampoo every couple of weeks. I mean, look, if my hair is dirty and it gets dirty and my scalp is itchy, obviously I'll shampoo it sooner than later. But if I'm just doing my thing, and for the past 2 weeks with this war, I've been working from home, so I haven't been getting dirty, I haven't been sweating. I usually shampoo every couple of weeks, or again, when the hair is dirty. So I think it's been, I don't know, a week and a half? It's been a week and a half to 2 weeks. But my hair is fine, it's not dirty, and my scalp isn't itchy, and I think I wanted to shower and shampoo before Shabbat, but I didn't get to do that. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe tomorrow, I think today or tomorrow I'll shower and shampoo. But the last time, yeah, like I'd say a week and a half ago or so. Deleted my post, cowards, says Imperator. I don't know what you're talking about, man. It could be that YouTube auto-censored it, because it does that sometimes. I don't delete anything, block anyone, ban anyone, put a timeout in anyone, on anyone, and there are no mods in this chat, because I believe it should be a free platform, as free as can be within the guidelines of YouTube's, parameters and whatnot. What you're saying is like the Utopia scenario. Well, look, It's a utopia, but I'm a realist. I understand that if we do reach some utopia, it will be through hard work and labor. We would have merited this utopia. We would have paid for it. Look, it can happen through love or through suffering, through peace or through war. And I believe love is better than hate, and I believe that peace is better than war. If we will be able, I don't know. I have no idea. I believe that if we will be able to bridge gaps between us and find common ground and speak more of the same language, we don't have to agree about everything. We won't. We are individuals, but we can find places where we can agree and build from there, right? We can. I mean, even just things like humor, things like music, things that transcend cultures and faiths and ways of life. People judge this guy, but he is not as close-minded and religious as people think. I like some of his takes, says 5513. No, I don't consider myself religious as such. I try to keep an open mind. I try to take things on a case-by-case basis, because coming with a lot of preconceived notions is not good for me. Coming with a few, perhaps, yeah, and there are these hills I'm willing to die on. But no, I see no reason to come with a pre-packaged answer to everything. If kids dress up for Purim like for Halloween, do couples have a holiday like Valentine's? Well, there is the 15th of Av, Tetvav Be'av, which is considered a day of unity, a day of togetherness. It occurs in the summer. A few things happened. One of them is that the tribes were allowed to intermarry on that day. Another one is that the people in the desert, during the time that Israel was wandering the desert, they stopped dying, and everybody had already, those who were supposed to perish. Pardon? I don't know, man. Look for it. I don't know where it is. I don't use the salt, really. Find it. Well, a few things happened on the 15th of Av over the course of history. So the 15th of Av is considered the day of love. I mean, it's been co-opted, if you will. Maybe that's not the right way to say it, because Tu B'Av predates St. Valentine's Day, but it's been called the Jewish Valentine's Day, let's put it that way, right? A day of love and a day of togetherness. Yo, you got a date? I do have some dates. We have some dates here, some majhul dates. People, what is your favorite date? As for a date, I would love to go on a date with my woman. We haven't been out in a long time. Just the two of us? That's right. But yes, I do have a date. Professor says, we are animals deep down in human civilization. No matter how advanced it will set to be, we'll still find something to recreate us versus them. Yes, we are tribal, the in-group, the out-group. But what I'm saying is that even though we do have the instinct, let's say, of preservation, and that we want to keep within our own group, and that causes some degree of tribalism, some degree of in-group, out-group thinking. And that might inevitably lead to conflict and war. We also have the other side of that coin, right? The other half, the other side of that token, that by the same token, we will be able to find similarities with other groups, similarities with other tribes, ways in which we can connect if we are aiming to do that. If you want to see the differences, of course you'll see the differences. But if you want to see the things where we are together, like you said, we are human beings, we are all animals. If you want to look, like, bottom line, we are all social animals. Some of us more social than others, but, right, we are basically just animals, we are just mammals. That's all we are, right? What did Bloodhound Gang say? You and me, we are nothing but mammals, so let's do it like they do on the Discovery Channel. Exactly like that. We're just mammals. That's what we are. That's the baseline. That's the bedrock of who we are. And if you want to build up from there to faith and religion and philosophy, psychology and consciousness and the nature of the world, that's already building it up. And there we can have many disagreements. But to start from that bottom, right, we're all animals, and we will still find the us versus them, it could very well be. But by the same token, we can find the us and them. So, you know. Sometimes I pretend that I'm a tree branch, says William Frank. Oh, a branch of what type of tree? It matters. It matters, William. It really does. LMAO, says Ava. Maybe you're an animal, but man was made in the image of God. Yes, we have the part of us that is a mammalian animal. And we have the part of us that is able to transcend our animal nature. right? We have what's called a divine soul, rather than others who simply have a beastly soul. Now, there's a difference of opinion. There are some religious Jews who say that only the Jews have a divine soul. I don't go with that opinion. I know that it does exist. I'm of the opinion that humankind as such, I don't differentiate Israel and Gentiles, right? I don't differentiate the different nations, the different cultures, the different, we all have a soul, and it's divine in nature. Not that it's part of the divine. I don't believe that our soul is part of the Creator, but I believe it's one of the highest manifestations of divinity in the world. So what I'm saying is that we are animals, and we have the capacity of transcending our animal nature. But that's literally what we are. So yes, if you don't think you're an animal, by all means, you don't have to think that. Nobody has to disagree with me. I'm not looking to change anyone's opinion. Hi bro, says Fake Blossom. I was in the explosion in Beersheba in my apartment, and I'm somehow alive and well. Glass shards were around me, but all I got is just a bruise. Good for you. Good for you. Were you in the mamad? Were you in the miklat? Where were you? Hopefully you were in some sort of a safe room. God is an animal, ultimate beast, I agree. No, I didn't say God is an animal. I said human beings are animals, made in the image of God. But just because we are made in the image of God does not mean that we already personify it from the get-go. The image of God is something that we need to acquire. It's something that we need to build ourselves up into, right? We need to grow into manifesting that image of God, that image of godliness that we have the capacity to, let's say, project, to be. We have to make it part of our being, of how we think and of how we speak and of how we eat and dress. And that's why the Hebrew people, with the Torah and the commandments, that's their way of manifesting the image of God, or at least finding ways to attain that image of God. And other nations have their own ways of doing it, right? The other nations don't have the Torah. It's us who have the Torah. They have other ways of doing it. But by and large, I don't think it's only Jews who have a divine soul. I don't think it's only Jews who are made in the image of God. Let's continue. To everyone who is experiencing war or trouble, says Enrico, I wish you and your family the best. Thank you. No more war. May war and bloodshed be taken away from creation right now, even right now as I'm speaking these words. May we know times of peace and love and prosperity. We need it so bad. Could you lower that a bit? Thank you. Thank you. Is Zeus in heaven? Well, I don't know much, James, about the Greek pantheon. I'm pretty sure that they're not in heaven. I'm pretty sure Zeus and the other gods were atop Mount Olympus. Now, if the Greeks do consider that heaven, that might be, but I don't know what you consider heaven. Or Thor. My point being, what about the gods and humans before the Jew? Okay, the gods and humans before the Jew, what about them? What do you mean? The Nordics, right, have their creation myth, and the Greeks have their creation myth, and we have our creation myth, and I think we are all, right, they have their pantheon of gods, and we have one God. That's basically the difference, right? All of the different forces of nature, all of the different personifications or deifications of the human psyche and the intellect, the forces of nature, the seasons, all of that they projected and turned it into gods, right? God of war, God of love, God of wine, and so on and so forth. What? Dionysus and Bacchus.
God of wine?
Yes, wine and fruit and fertility.
That's a bit weird.
But it's not weird, see? It's not weird. That's what I'm saying. I know to you it is. At any rate, so different people had their different pantheon of gods, and we have the one Hebrew God to which we attribute all of that, the different forces of nature, right? And all of the different things that go on inside of us. It's, like someone said right before, it's a battle, right, of good and evil, and it is played on in many arenas and in many planes of existence. So what about the gods and humans before the Jew? What about them? They were there, and they are still there. Some people are still polytheistic. I mean, look at the Hindu faith. It's one of the most ancient civilizations that we know. It's polytheistic, right, by nature, if I'm not mistaken. That, they have their ways, we have our ways. That's simply how it goes. I don't think everybody should be Jewish. That's the big difference. Can you translate Alpha Blondie's song Miwa? I saw him when he performed here in Jerusalem. Must have been 14 years ago. Something like that, 14, 15 years ago. I suppose I could translate it to D808. Leave me a comment and I'll do it, but I'm not going to do it here on the fly because I don't have my laptop here. I'm just on the phone. But if I had the laptop, maybe I would do it. Maybe I wouldn't. Either way, hit me up with a message or a DM. Incidentally, if you want to hit me up in the DMs, I don't... Thanks, man. Appreciate it. No, I get it. You don't like it. I might. That's fine. If you want to hit me up in the DMs, Hebrew Nazarite across the board. Look for my tree. I'm on TikTok, X, Facebook, Instagram, and here. I don't post much, but on those other platforms, but I am there for the DMs, so hit me up if you want. The Talmud says Indigo, Jesus the Nazarene is punished in boiling excrement. Yes, it's true. That is one opinion in the Talmud. It was not made into halacha. It's not rabbinic law to believe that. So it was some sage's opinion. What's your point? I'm not of the opinion that he's burning in excrement, by the way. Those dreads are sick, says King. Well, it's just hair. It just grows like that. It just grows like that. Needs to wash his hair, says his God alone. I do, regularly. But, okay, thank you for the tip on personal hygiene. Adrianus is still posting Palestine flags. Which Adrianus are we talking about? Surely not the Emperor of Rome. You look Jewish, says Jasmine. I kind of am. You know, I'm of the kingdom of Judah, so that makes me Jewish. Pretty hateful, says Indigo. Yes, I agree. There are people who hate other people in the Talmud and in the Mishnah and in the Torah, because we live in a world of good and evil. We live in a world of hate and love. And so the question is, once again, what is the lens through which you view reality? If you want to see the hateful, spiteful, misogynistic, misandrist, and racist things in the Torah, oral and written alike, you'll see it. If you want to see the benevolent things, the good things, the kind things, and the grace, you'll see it there too. So to bring one small passage, or line from Masechet Gitin, and to say, oh, that's what Jews think. You didn't say that, but I've been many times thrown this gotcha. And it's not a gotcha in any way, shape, or form. All that says is there were people at some point after the Second Temple fell who quoted people who were around before the Second Temple fell who did not like Jesus. Or rather, people, because he was around at the time when the temple was standing. So people who were around after the temple fell, who, because of Christianity starting to gain traction and pull people from the Hebrew faith to Christianity, they decided to say, oh, so the one who is responsible, Jesus, is punished in boiling excrement. Okay, I don't have to believe that. It has no actual halachic rabbinic law implementation. It's just something that somebody said. It makes no difference to me what they said. Can I borrow $5, says Hugh? Well, speaking of which, I haven't been on for a couple of weeks, so I haven't checked AdSense, but I think last time I checked, hopefully YouTube will give me my first payment, and I will be as transparent as I can, as I've said before about this. I'll show you the analytics if I can, my bank statement if I can, and we'll find out what charity we will be giving. It's about 2,200 shekel, which is something like $750, give or take. Yeah, 2,200 shekel were raised in a few weeks because of you good people. So we'll have to see what charity we're giving it to, if we want to give it to several, if we want to, I think I'll alternate, but who knows? I haven't broadcast in a couple of weeks. Who knows what will be? But I'm here now. Incidentally, a quick aside to say thank you, those watching now, those watching later, the lovers and the haters, the subs, the likes, the views, the people who swipe away quickly. Blech, what is that? I admire it, and I love it, and it's awesome, and I thank you, and I cherish your engagement, and your insults, and your vitriol, and the encouragement. I love it all, and I thank you. Okay, let's see. Do you worship Baal and Molech, says Slomon? No, because they are not, they are pagan gods. Baal belongs to the people of Canaan who were here. Molech also, right? But not to the Canaanites. I think someone else. Either way, Baal and Molech were indeed a pain in the ass of the Israelites for many, many years, but we have since outgrown, thankfully, We have outgrown, due to the prophet's involvement, we have outgrown the pagan ritual worship and the worship of pagan gods. So I know, we as a people no longer worship Baal or Molech. We make an attempt to worship the one Hebrew God, and that's the way it goes down. But I have no doubt that if I were around at the time when there was the actual inherent inclination and the desire, the burning desire to worship Hebrew gods, to bow down to Molech and Baal, that it would be very, very tough for me to say no. It would be very, very tough for me, I think, to say no to worshiping a pagan god, seeing as how the Hebrew God has no image. The Hebrew God has no incarnation, not in a statue, not in a painting, not in any kind of apparition that is human-like. And so to have something like the golden calf that we read in the previous Torah portion, right, on Shabbos, something like the golden calf, I don't fault the Israelites for wanting something tangible that they can look and see, Ele Elohecha Yisrael, this is your God, O Israel. It's like, I don't fault them. For all I know, if I was around at the time, when we had that burning desire to worship other gods, I would probably do the same thing. Maybe, maybe not. But we, as a people, and I, as an individual, no longer worship Baal and Molech, Slomon. In a time of destruction, says America, create something. Maxine Hong Kingston. Who was Maxine Hong Kingston? I don't know. In a time of destruction, create something. That is lovely. That is a call to artists, right? That is a call to artists. Yeah, I think that's true. I really do think that's true. Fake Blossom says, what do you think should be the religious guideline for someone interested in Judaism, but is trans and not a halachic Jew? Well, being trans is neither here nor there. It's not against halacha to be a transgender. As for not a halachic Jew, unless you want to convert, halacha should have no bearing on you whatsoever. If you are looking to convert to Orthodox Judaism, then halacha, not yet. Once you convert, will be you'll bind yourself to it. It will be you will be bound by it. But until you convert, and if you don't even want to convert and you're merely interested, then it depends on who you ask. What do I think should be the religious guideline? There is no religious guideline because you are not a religious Jew, so there is no guideline. You simply have an interest in Judaism, so I don't think there are any guidelines there as far as the religion is concerned. There are guidelines that differ from one person to the other on what should or should not be taught to those who are not of the faith. But there really is a wide spectrum of beliefs and laws, according to the halachic ruler that you would go by, on what it is that you should be teaching and what is it you should not be teaching. Should the Gentiles learn Torah? Should they not learn Torah? I personally am of the opinion that the floodgates are way, way open for a long time already. So if a person wants to learn something, all I say is get a proper master. If you are interested in Judaism, get a proper Jewish master, right? If you're interested in Gemara, Talmud, go and study with a Talmudic scholar. If you're interested in Kabbalah, study with a Kabbalist. If you're interested in the Mishnaic world, study with someone who is an expert in Mishnah, if you will. So that's the way I think about it. Whatever it is that you are interested in, do it alongside a proper master. That's what I would say. Have a haircut. No, Saba Mahmoud, I don't think so. I'm a Nazarite. We don't cut our hair, but I appreciate it. Oh, so very ordinary. Good to see you again. Did Yahweh have a wife, Asherah? So yes, Yod Hei Vav Hei, in earlier traditions, in Canaan, did have a wife called Asherah. Was she kicked out of the temple in Kings? Let's put it this way. The tree, right? Asherah was personified by the tree in different ways. There's also, was it King Chizkiyahu's mother or King Tzidkiyahu's mother who made a monster, what's called a mifletzet, for the Asherah, and he got rid of it? No, was it Yoshiyahu? Which king was it? No, I think it was Chizkiyahu. Hello, my dear, you had a nice nap? Yofi, I'm glad. So yes, Asherah was kicked out way before the time of the temple. Asherah was kicked out already in the times of the Torah. The thing is that there were people who were still worshipping Asherah. much like there were still people worshiping pagan deities up until the time of the Second Temple, really, or around that time. Rolling Star says key fasting days, Yom Kippur, Day of Atonement, the most sacred. Yeah, okay. What about it? I'm not sure. Oh, you're probably just answering someone, but it's true, Rolling Star. It's true. Go on the road, be a traffic cone, you garden gnome, Finez Edits said. I like that. I am a garden gnome. You know, I'm a Harry Potter gnome. I've got sharp teeth, and I annoy people, and you can kick me, and I'll fly for many, you know. I'm a garden gnome like Harry Potter. Yeah, that's what I think for sure. Eric Boggs. He is very smart. I think he's a writer. Good to see you again, Eric. Indeed, I am a writer. I don't think I'm too smart. I think I'm kind of dumb. But I do have my moments. Do you think Zionism is moral? Says King Games. I mean, I don't think Zionism is moral or immoral. I think there are some people who do very benevolent moral things in the name of Zionism, and I think that there are people who do immoral and heinous things in the name of Zionism. I am a fan of those, and I condemn those. But Zionism as such is simply the idea of the people returning to their ancestral home. It has its origins in the book of Deuteronomy, in the Bible, right, in the Torah, and it has its modern-day origins in the middle of the 19th century. But Zionism is not moral or immoral. It's up to the Zionists to act morally or immorally, and thereby have people say whether or not it's moral. But I'm definitely not of the opinion that everything done in the name of Zionism is right and true and moral. Far from it. Far from it. Baal was worshipped, says Aram, in Syria as well by the Aramean. Really? Well, yeah. I mean, Canaan was also what later became Syria. So yeah, this makes sense. That does make sense. Does God love the virus as much as the host, says Oh Very Ordinary? Well, I don't know. I don't know God, right? All I know is how God reveals himself to me. That idea of God's love is something which has a counter force to it, right? There's love, there's grace, there's openness, right? The hand that's always giving. And there is wrath, vengeance, judgment, withholding, right? Limitations, straits, narrowness. Once again, this is personified in us as the image of God. And once again, I say, it depends on the individual and how they perceive the divine revelation. There are those who will say God is a sadist, right? Who just wants to watch his creation destroy itself. And he could fix everything like that, but he doesn't because he's a sadist. And there are those who say, no, it's human beings who bring about their own destruction. It's human beings who are sabotaging their own environment, their own earth, their own selves in the way that they behave. And it's up to us to transcend our limitations and overcome our weaknesses, reveal that image of God in which we were created, thus manifesting that divine love in fullness. But both of them are there, right? The divine revelation is left and right and center. So does God love the virus as much as the host? There is a facet of God that loves everything regardless, much like there is a counter facet that sits in judgment of the most, the most nano judgment of the tiniest thing, right? Left and right. And then we have the synthesis of both called the center. And that's why the tree of life has a left pillar and a right pillar and a center pillar, because there is a harmony. Right? There's the place that we come from that is the root where there is no duality. And then there is the duality that goes throughout the tree of life, and then culminating once again in going back to the root and going back into one. And then it flips. So there's that whole thing. This dude came straight out of a Disturmer magazine. Yes, I did, Justin. Many people have said if I drew you, I would be indicted for anti-Semitism. Professor says, how do you define evil? That's a good question. I think that there is no... how do I define evil? Very broadly, I define evil as the forces, the adversarial forces that come into play inside of the human being and outside of the human being. But When I say adversarial, what I mean is, let's take nature, right? Nature is not good or bad. Nature, right, like the sea, is untamable, right? Sometimes it's calm, and sometimes it's stormy. But at no point will you say that the sea is evil. It's just doing its thing, right? So we see that nature as such, right? When a lion eats a gazelle, he's not doing it because he's evil. He's doing it because it's in his nature. Okay, so we see that you can have an adversarial element. Hello, Mr. Baby. We can have an adversarial element that is not typically evil, that is not like the classic evil. Now, the thing with evil is, I think for me to define evil, it would be first to define good, and knowing one will help define the other. And I think I go on a case-by-case basis. I suppose I have no definition of evil. What I have is a scenario. What I have is a situation. If you give me a certain scenario, a situation, a set of circumstances, I will tell you, oh, this looks good, this looks evil. If you would behave in this way, it would be good. If you would behave in that way, it would be evil. Or, again, it's a spectrum, right? It's not either or. There's a spectrum, right, where you could be mostly evil, mostly good. It's not like it really does go on a case-by-case basis. People, how do you define evil? How do you define good? Right? We are in a world of knowledge of good and evil. And we know that if there is a duality, there already is degrees. It's not either or, right? We are made as an amalgamation of all of those different... Oh, guys, can you somebody close the bathroom door? You know, there's too much noise. I might need to say goodbye. Maybe not. Maybe I'll try and go upstairs. Should I try going upstairs again? I don't know what to do. I'm not sure what to do. I'll keep going here for now, I suppose. Toll-shot says, do you believe in good and evil as powers or as contrary descriptive words? Well, they are descriptive words in the sense that they are part of my vocabulary. But these are simply physical words that are, coming out of my mouth, but they bespeak something that has a spiritual origin. So it's both of those things. I believe, for instance, if we go with the account of creation in Genesis, we see that evil existed only as the potential of evil. It didn't exist in creation, in the physical, let's say, right? The serpent was external. It had similar. The two creations that are said to have spoken in Eden are the serpent and the human beings, right? So we do have that similarity, meaning that there was the capacity for evil, but it had not yet entered, right, the human spirit, the human psyche, the human being. Only after we were expelled, right, after eating from the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, only after we were expelled from Eden to the place of good and evil, this world, then it became sort of inherently part of us. But before that, you can say that they were powers, but I think of it more as potential, right? The potential of evil existed. The potential of goodness and righteousness existed. But we weren't in the place where we could manifest it as such. This is the place where we can manifest it, which is why this is the place where we have the Torah and the commandments. This is the place where they can actually be carried out, right? The angels and demons have no Torah. They have no commandments. The ones who are dead, the ones who are not born yet, they have no Torah. They have no commandments. Us here living in this world of knowledge of good and evil, of living out this good and evil, we are the ones who are tasked with bettering ourselves, with bettering our ways, overcoming our weaknesses, expanding our consciousness, rising above, right? Because we have the capacity for good and for evil. Okay, let's continue. What an interesting explanation. It makes total sense, NL. Well, sense, I don't know if it makes sense, because that speaks of logic, right? And we're not talking about things that make sense as such, because sense means it's already a duality, sense and nonsense, right? Or lack of sense. But yeah. Evil hurts animals and good is kind to animals. Oh, so very ordinary says. So what do you mean? According to you, vegans would be the epitome of good, and carnivores would be the epitome of evil, even if they are not humans? So what do you mean? I'm curious. We humans, says Eric, are the evil things on this earth. Yes, but to the degree that we can be evil, we can also be good. What did Rabbi Nachman say, right? If you believe you can make things wrong, believe you can make them right. We have the capacity for both. We have the potential to do both. And there is no denying that human beings can be seen as a scourge of planet Earth and the despoilers of the planet and people who brought all of the horrible things and but we are also tasked with being the caretakers, the stewards, the guardians of this amazing creation, which means that we have the capacity, the ability, the potential, the duty, the responsibility to manifest that as well. And even though we might be falling short of the ideal, always, I believe that we will come to that. It starts with you, it starts with me. You know, what are we doing here to better our ways? What are we doing here to safeguard our immediate surroundings? I mean, I mentioned veganism. That's something that a person can do, that can do a lot. What are you, says Omega Larnchana. I am a Hebrew man, no more, no less. Just a dumbass in the Middle East with a phone. And who are you, Lars? Lars? No, Larn. Lar? Omega Lar? Sorry, man. Bad and evil give our vessel greater capacity to accept good. Right, it's like, unfortunately, you can't have one without the other. Right, you can't have one without the other as such. But there is a shared root, right? Speaking of Amalek and of Purim, right? There is that shared root where evil and good have not yet manifested, and it's still at the root, right? It's still at the top of the pyramid. Animals eat each other to survive. Sport hunters hurt animals for leisure, not to feed themselves. Yes, oh so very ordinary. By that rationale, according to that, hunters who hunt for food are doing the right thing. I believe that, right? And I say that as a vegan. I think that those who hunt for food give the prey, the animal, the proper respect, right? By doing it themselves and looking it in the eye, right, so to speak, when they are taking its life. So I don't have problems with people who hunt for food, for sustenance. I do have some problem with people who hunt for sport, but I also know that, for instance, there are times when the population of some species or another is overtaking, right, and disturbing the balance, the ecosystem's balance. So they say, oh, okay, we need to cut down the number of X, Y, or Z animals. So go for it, and you can buy it. You know, take a tag and go tag a deer, tag a this, tag a that. And even though they don't eat them, in that way, they do contribute to the homeostasis of the ecosystem. Now, you could say that that's the wrong thing to do. I don't know. But in most cases, I think, it's the human beings who have taken the habitat of these animals that caused the population to become, out of balance. So I don't know how those things go. I'm not very knowledgeable of these things. Eric says we must care for all and not screw each other over. Yes, wouldn't that be good? Wouldn't that be good? It would be good if we would screw each other over less. I'm inclined to agree. And even if we do have that tribal way of thinking, and even if we do have that in-group, out-group mode of being, we still can also employ a greater outlook, right? And we can have a wider vision that is not limited to me, mine, and now only us. There is some sort of a way in which we can open up our mind and open up our eyes and our ears and our hearts to others without it coming at our expense. There is that possibility. There is. I believe that that's a possibility. But, we screw each other over all the time. All the time. I don't know if it will ever truly go away until, right, God will pour His Spirit upon all flesh, like it says in the book of Yoel, right? Knowledge of God will cover the earth like water covers the sea. I don't know how that will happen or when, how it will go down, in what way. But that's a time when I can foresee, and it has been foreseen before me, that yes, eventually we will come to that. I hope we will come to it through love and understanding, embracing one another, right? Finding similarities between us and others, the in-group and the out-groups. But I don't know how it will go down. Respecting what you eat, says Enrico, and thanking God and realizing that you are what you eat, and in spiritually you are one. In death, God will give you the answers. What do you mean by in death, God will give you the answers? I'm curious. Enrico, what do you mean by that? I mean, I understand what you're saying with the rest of that comment, and I agree. You definitely are what you eat. Spiritually, we are one. Our differences are many in the physical. But spiritually speaking, right, there is that one root of creation that we are a part of. But what do you mean by in death, God will give you the answers? Follow the sun, it gives life. George Carlin has a great bit about him becoming a sun worshipper. I won't repeat it now, but it's funny. When a critical mass raises their consciousness, says Tamal. Tamal, are you a Hebrew? That is a biblical name. Tamal. Tamal is a date tree. A palm tree is a tamal. Tamal means date. When a critical mass raises their consciousness, that is a good way of thinking about it. That is a very good way of thinking about it. I'm inclined to agree. This, by the way, is something that the temple facilitated in great measure, to a great degree, when it stood, because the temple is that which facilitated the union between the lower masculine and feminine divine presence in the world. And there's a reason why there were miracles occurring there regularly. And there's a reason why there was a constant atonement, right, during the time of the temple. The ritual worship that was carried out there, it facilitated this great awareness, this great consciousness, which is also why in the first and second temple, when things started to go awry and go wrong, it went completely down the drain, so much that both temples were eventually burned. And I've said this before, right, quoting the Midrash, I suppose it was, by the time Babylon and Rome torched the temples, they were already burned from the inside. And so all they did was set fire to the physical building. But the buildings themselves were burned already from the inside because of the way that the Hebrews were behaving and treating each other. Free Palestine, says Borek X. I agree. Free Palestine from Hamas and other terrorist groups. Free Palestine from the warmongering, bloodthirsty, religious extremist leaders who are oppressing their own people, stealing their money, growing rich and fat off of their horrors and tragedy, and claiming victimhood to boot. I agree. Thank you for supporting the IDF. Thank you for supporting Israel, Borek X. I deeply appreciate it. What do you think of the Buddha, says Professor? Well, Prince Siddhartha Gautama Buddha is an amazing figure. I truly love the things that I've read in Buddhism. I thought were very, very wise. I'm not a fan of Buddha being worshipped, like, because I'm a Jew, I'm a Hebrew, so I understand why Buddhists do it, and it's precisely why there is no image of God in the Hebrew Bible. Right? God is not an image. There is no God incarnate. But somebody like the Buddha, right? The enlightened ones, the Bodhi. It's, what do I think? I think he was a great man who made a very difficult choice. And he chose not to stay in nirvana, right? He chose to be enlightened and then come down from the mountain, so to speak, and to teach the masses and spread the good word. And I think he did a lot in his time to raise, right? If we're talking about raising consciousness and awareness and having there be a critical mass, things like what Buddha did, right? Where it's not that you simply separate and detach. No. You throw yourself right back into the attachment. You throw yourself right back into the mob, the mass, the people, the nation, in order for them to also benefit from spiritual enlightenment. And even if it comes at your expense, right? It's like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, right? Aang, towards the end of the series, Aang says, but I'm a monk, I'm an air nomad, and I'm supposed to reach spiritual enlightenment. How am I able to take a life? How will I be able to kill the Fire Lord? How will I be able to stop the war and still maintain my own spiritual integrity? And then a previous avatar of the air nomads tells him the avatar can't do it because his sole duty is to the world. So even though he is an air nomad and a great master, he will not be able to. He needs to sacrifice his own spiritual needs for the people. And Buddha did the same thing. Buddha, right? That's royalty, by the way, right? That's a very royal thing to do. Not to think of yourself, but to think of the people. So when he achieved nirvana, right? When he was in that place, when he was free from the world of illusion, that's samsara, right? And he was able to come back, and he decided, no, I'm going to go down from the mountain and I will share it with the people. That is an amazing thing. It really, truly is. So what do I think of the Buddha? From what I've known, he was a great man who said a lot of very wise things, for sure. Andy is here. Hey, how you doing, man? Sorry about all the bombing and crap. It's just part of the way of the world. Jilla says, I feel even IDF and Israel are not perfect. Obviously, we're not perfect. When it comes to Palestine case, you have to accept. Yes, I do accept. There are many people who do things that are wrong. But Israel as such, the IDF as such, of course there are individual people in the government, in the army, among the people and the general population who are hateful, who are racist, who are bigots, who are have their mind, let's say, warped or twisted by indoctrination and messianic thinking that has caused them to look only at that and not see the human in front of them. Sure, obviously. But if you're talking about a broad, general way of being, then I support Israel and its government. And I haven't voted in like 20 years, but I still support not everything they do across the board blindly. I believe that you should be critically thinking. You should criticize the IDF. You should criticize the government. You should criticize Israel and the establishment as such. You should. You could. And you ought to, perhaps, if you have something to say about it, because we're not going to agree that they are the paragon of virtue and yeah, what is it? Okay. So yes, I do accept, definitely, and not just when it comes to Palestine. Incidentally, I say this every time, there is no Palestine, right? Palestine is the name that Rome gave the region. There has never been such a kingdom or such a people. There are people who were here, not only Jews, who lived under the British mandate of Palestine and their rule at the time, but the Jews were also Palestinians. They had a Palestinian passport. So the Palestinian identity was a counterforce to the Jewish identity. There was no such thing before. Even the flag was something that only came about in the 1960s. Arafat and the PLO, they were the ones who brought this. You okay, baby? He ate? Yes, he ate. Can someone give him his bottle? I think there's still some in there. But if not, then forget it. Everybody is here. I need to, oh, okay. All right. I'm being too loud. Should I try going upstairs?
No.
No?
Be less excited.
Less excited? How
Be
can
like
I
us.
be like us, huh?
Meh.
All right. There is no Israel, there was only sons of Israel. Okay, good call. There was no modern-day state of Israel. True. But there was the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of Judah, the unified and separate kingdoms. There was a first temple, there was a second temple. These are things that have a historical accord attached to them that is independent of our own writings and our own records of history. So there was no modern-day state of Israel, yes, until it was established. On that we can agree. But there was the Hebrews maintained a presence in the land of Israel throughout every exile, throughout every war of destruction and annihilation or skirmish or conflict in the region. There was always a Jewish Hebrew presence in this land. And it has always been the ancestral home. And for the nearly 2,000 years that we were kicked out, we longed and we yearned and we prayed and we literally made pilgrimages to this place. So it's not that there was some kind of a disconnect and that it happened in a vacuum and out of nowhere suddenly. No. This has been 2,000 years in the making. But yes, there was no state of Israel. That's correct. The state of Israel as we know it was, right, the product of 1948, the product of the United Nations, to some degree the product of the Holocaust that preceded the establishment of the state of Israel. So yeah, that's true. Fairy tales and mushy thinkers, says Comrade Beer. I think you've been here before, Comrade. Fairy tales, indeed. Mushy thinkers? What do you mean by mushy thinkers? If you mean mushies as in mushrooms, I'm definitely on board with that. Fairy tales are fun ways to learn. Yes, they are. Whenever someone mentions that the Torah and the Bible are fairy tales, I say, okay, let's say that they're fairy tales. I say, if you think that fairy tales mean nothing, then you haven't read what, let's say, psychiatrists, psychoanalysts, and psychologists have said about fairy tales. You haven't read what sociologists and anthropologists have said about the stories that have been passed down and how they shape and form nations and periods of history, entire civilizations. People who belittle the Bible, the Torah, and who say, oh, it's all fairy tales, it's like, okay, let's grant that. Let's say that it's all fairy tales. That has a lot of meaning, a ton of meaning. It still does, I believe that. Oh, so very ordinary says, I miss being a new mom. First steps and first words, seeing kids discover their world. Well, I've been going through it with all my kids for a while, so there is something very magical about that period of time. Yes, says ABD, Abdu, there was always a Jewish presence in the Middle East. No, not just the Middle East. This land, the land of Judea, the land of Samaria, the land of Israel. This doesn't mean that all the Middle East belongs to you. I never said the Middle East belongs to us. I never said the land of Israel belongs to us. I believe the land is part of creation. Creation belongs to the Creator. We are caretakers. We are stewards. We are ones who are given, right? We are given not ownership of it. We are given a time to be here in order to fulfill our mission and carry out our task. But it doesn't belong to us. I don't think that at all. I think creation belongs to the Creator. Are you in Israel right now? Yes, I am, Borek. I'm in Jerusalem. Are you in New Jersey? No, I'm not, WT. I'm not in New Jersey. Why are you? Why Jews wiped out the pharaohs and the creators of the pyramids, Iron Man says. I didn't know that that was a thing. Can you give me a source that Jews wiped out pharaohs? I'm pretty sure it was Babylon that wiped out the dynasties of the pharaohs, the later ones. Right? Nebuchadnezzar took over Egypt when he took over Judah. So I don't think it was the Jews who wiped out pharaohs and creators of pyramids. I don't think that they were even part of the same time frame. I think that the creation of the pyramids was like, what, 10,000, 15,000 years ago? And the story of Exodus is something like 4,000 years ago? No, not even. No, what am I talking about? The story of Exodus is closer to 3,500 years ago. 3,600, something like that. Please explain the headwear. Oh, the headwear is just because I wear funny hats. That's it. It has nothing to do with religion whatsoever. I just like wearing funny hats.
Just like me.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. Oh, you know what? I never made my cup of tea. Whatever. So no, the headwear has no meaning whatsoever. It's just a funny hat because I like funny hats. The hair is part of the faith, but yeah. Jews not chosen anymore, says Parida. Yes, there are people who say that the Jews lost their place as chosen ones. I don't believe, that we are chosen for anything in particular other than to carry out our own task. I believe that everyone was chosen for different things. We were chosen for this, other nations chosen for that. So I don't go for that whole Jewish superiority thing. Second of all, if you're saying that the Jews are not chosen, okay, fair enough. What does that mean practically, de facto, in the world? The covenant still exists. We still share a covenant. Can someone let him out? Boys, thank you. Thank you. So you can say that Jews are not chosen, that's fine. The covenant exists whether you think it or not. Now there are people, like Christians and Muslims, who say that the covenant itself is broken and is gone. And the Torah explicitly states, and the Bible reiterates this, the covenant might be broken by Israel, but the covenant remains. Even when we break it, it remains, and we will go back to the covenant. That's what's called tshuva, returning, repenting, going back to who we are and what we are meant to do, who we are meant to be. That's where biblical Zionism comes from. Biblical Zionism basically says, when you forsake the covenant, you'll get kicked out of the land, and God will seemingly pretend to forsake you, and you will be put through all kinds of grief and misery and hardship, and you won't know why. But then, eventually, at some point, you'll get your asses kicked so hard that you will think, wait a minute, I'm going through all of this grief. There must be a reason. Let's investigate. And when you investigate, you will find the Torah. And in the Torah, it will be written that it's your fault. So get your act together and repent and do good things and be a good person. Return to the covenant and then return to the land. That is the nature of... No, please, baby. That is the nature of Zionism. Okay. You know what? It's been an hour. I think I'll say goodbye. Hopefully I'll be able to do this again sometime. Oh, wow. So, hey, thank you all for being here. I deeply appreciate it. Leave a comment. I'll definitely be on, I'm up for answering comments in the next, half hour, and afterwards, because I like comments. If I didn't get to your chat, it wasn't because I didn't mean to. It wasn't because I was intentionally ignoring you. It wasn't because it's just because the chat was going pretty fast and I couldn't get to everything. But I do address every single comment that is addressed to me. So by all means, leave a comment. If you want to hit me up in the DMs and go back and forth, I love going back and forth in the DMs. Hit me up, Hebrew Nazarite. Look for my tree on X, and on Instagram, and on TikTok, and on Facebook. I don't post there much, but I am there for the DMs, so hit me up if you want. Until then, be blessed, be a blessing to others, be the light in other people's lives. God willing, I will see you at some point for another live stream. I'm so thankful I was able to do it without the air raid siren going off. Let's hope for peace, for love, for prosperity. Let's hope that the Iranian people will be able to rid themselves of their oppressive religious regime.
You guys look at
and and be able to be Iran once again.
Iran.
May we all know times of greatness, of peace, love, prosperity. Goodbye from Jerusalem. God bless. Be good now.